These are 3 new titanium pots that I treated myself to for Christmas. When I'm camping by myself, I generally just use the 2 smaller ones. The smallest pot is plenty of water to rehydrate my freeze-dried meals. The middle pot will be the container that I'll actually add the water and the freeze-dried food to. And my project for today is to make a pot cozy for that middle size pot, just to save on fuel and keep the meal warm while it rehydrates. And the larger pot is only when I'm traveling in a pair or a couple people to just heat up a larger quantity of water, so I don't really need a pot cozy for that one. So the project for today is to make a pot cozy. Stay tuned. Now the pot cozy that I'm going to make is going to come up to just underneath the attachment for the handle, and then on this side there's also a pouring handle, so it's going to come up this high. And then I'm also going to make a cover that's going to go down over top of this, and that'll overlap the outside here. So there's going to be 2 steps. The first one is going to be making the bottom 2/3, and then there'll be a top that'll cover the top 1/3. And because I want it to slip on and off easily, I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger than this bottom diameter, which will be very, very close to the size of the pot lid. So we'll use this to trace out the bottom circle first. A pot cozy is simply an insulated blanket, a sleeve that you're going to put around the cooking pot. So once I add my dehydrated food, freeze-dried food to the pot, I'll then cover it with boiling water and just set it off to the side. And it usually only takes 10 or 15 minutes to rehydrate, but the pot cozy maintains that heat. The one disadvantage of these titanium pots is that they're very thin and they really transmit the heat quickly, so it would cool down too fast. But the pot cozy also allows me to retain that heat without having to keep the stove going or set it in the fire, and so that saves fuel in the long run. So first thing I'm going to do is cut out the bottom, and I'm just going to use that pot lid as the pattern. One other thing I should have mentioned, this is a material called Reflectix. If you're not familiar with it, it's simply plastic bubble wrap that has a foil surface on both sides. And when we get all the different pieces cut out, then I'm going to use aluminum tape to tape it all together. The next step is to cut a strip that's going to go around the outside circumference of the pot. And I want to come up just to the bottom of this bracket, and that is about 2.5 inches. So I'm going to cut a strip from this scrap of Reflectix that's 2.5 inches wide, and then we'll make a loop that'll go around the outside of the pot. So now I have the bottom circle cut out. I've got a strip cut out for the side, and I need to make a little adjustment here. I got a piece that's a little bit too long. I want to be able to go all the way around. I won't need this extra. I'm going to trim it rough, and then I'm going to do a fine trimming here in a little bit. So I'm just going to cut off a little extra here. So the next thing is I'm going to start going around and taping this strip to the circle and forming the pot cozy. So stay tuned for that. So the next step is taping the side band to the bottom. And what I'm going to do is use the pot just upside down to hold things while I tape it together. And I just cut some little 1-inch strips of aluminum tape. This is actual aluminum duct tape. This is the type of tape that is used to seal the gaps in metal heating ducts. So it's aluminum with a thin adhesive and then with a peel-off paper backing. So I'm just going to go around with a couple 1-inch strips and tack that side in place on the bottom. I'm just working my way around. And just using the bottom of the pot here as a little bit of a guide. With these little pieces of aluminum adhesive tape. And again, the most important thing is making the bottom slightly bigger than the pot. You want to be able to slip the pot in and out of this easily when it's full of hot liquid. You don't want to have to pry the pot out. So now I'm all the way around, and now I'll have to make the final cut here to trim that off so I can get an exact fit. So right about there. Cut this off. And now I can piece those two ends together. So I'm going to cut a piece to fit this, to cover that on the inside and the outside. So now I've taken my little 1-inch strips and I've gone all the way around. And we have the bottom half completed. I'm going to add one more strip around the outside here just to pretty it up a little bit. I've also seen other versions of this where they added the same amount of tape on the inside, but I don't do that. It's just a little bit of overkill. This is just a cover, obviously, just an insulated cover. So I'm going to put one more strip around the outside just to harden it up a little bit, and then we'll do the same thing and make the pieces for the top. These are the pieces that I'm going to use to make the cover for the pot. And this is an optional step. A lot of people just make the bottom pot cozy, put the lid on the pot and call it good. But this is going to be another insulated cover, and just to hold the heat in even a little bit better. This has got to be one size bigger, obviously, so it can telescope over that bottom section. So to cut out the circle, I actually used the lid from the next size bigger pot, because these pots all nest together, so they already telescope together. So I'll attach the side to that top circle, just like I did the bottom, and show you what that looks like when it's done. So I went all the way around the what is now the lid of the pot cozy with my little 1-inch strips, and then I put one continuous piece around the circumference, and because I use the larger pot as the form, I've got it on top of that larger pot just to hold things in place. So that's kind of handy if you're going to make one and you can find a pot just a little bit bigger, then you have a form. So this is now the lid. So here's the middle-sized pot that I started out with. There's the bottom, and I made this as a lid that's large enough to fit over this and over the handles. And that just sits on there loosely just to keep the steam in, keep the little bit of heat from escaping through the lid, because this lid does have vent holes in it. So there's your completed pot cozy. This one's a little bit more complicated because of these extra handles on here. If it didn't have this extra handle, I could make it a little bit higher. But that will conserve heat and in the process conserve fuel. And there's a little bit of time-consuming work to do it, but it's a good hour's project on a winter day, and it's definitely going to make cooking and serving up food that much easier come the summer trips. So thanks for watching. One other thing, this again was some Reflectix scraps that I had. These are all actually left over from window insulating panels for our camper van. But if you can't find Reflectix in anything smaller than a 15 or 20 foot roll at the hardware store, this is very, very similar to the cheap foil backed windshield covers that you can find sometimes at the dollar store. Might be a little bit thinner. You might even maybe go around twice, make a double layer, but that's another source for the reflective material, is an inexpensive windshield cover. And all in all, a little bit of time and some foil tape, and you'll have a good insulated cover. Thanks for watching. Now that you've got the pot cozy completed, it's a little bit fragile. So this is a Dyneema bag made by Pond's Edge, and I'll put the link in the description below, just to keep this from getting banged up in the pack. Slip it in there, and now you've got a nice container for it. Pond's Edge LLC from Troy Pond.